Welcome to Over the Edge podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rankin. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about surrendering to the flow of the universe. So what does that mean to me? That means allowing myself to be totally at ease, to trust that the universe has my back, and to allow myself to receive all of the things that I'm asking to actualize into my life. And I think sometimes that we are conditioned that we have to work so very hard and struggle to get the things that we desire in life. And I'm learning myself to shift that type of thinking, that way of being and acting, and learning to be more in the flow of the energies of the universe. So I know that you've heard me talk about in previous podcasts of how the universe creates in the energy of chaos. And chaos is totally different than that of the energy of havoc. Havoc comes from more of a malevolent energy, a destructive energy. Whereas chaos can create this beautiful symphony in our life. And sometimes we understand the energies of chaos as being, it's beautiful, actually. It can be very synchronistic. It can be all over the place. But if you think about the universe and how the universe expands, there's this sense of the universe is constantly creating. And all of these wonderful energies come together and they collaborate together to create something different, something new. So when I think of surrendering to that energy of chaos, sometimes we get so hooked on the idea of controlling everything. And perhaps that's what this podcast should be about, is the idea of going from control into flow and surrender. And, there are things, people, places, experiences that the universe wishes to gift to us because that's innately what we've been asking for. But sometimes we get in our heads or we get into the emotion of things and we think it has to be a certain way or outlined a certain way. And if we just allow ourselves to surrender to the flow of the universe, I wonder what that could create for us. I wonder what magic that could create in our lives. What I often think about the times in my life where I've tried to dictate so much control over the outcome of a situation that it just blew up in my face, that it became that energy of havoc instead of being the energy of chaotic flow, beautiful flow, right? And how many times have we created something and, where we just didn't know, you could put another spin on that, right? Like we just didn't know how it was going to turn out, what it was going to look like. We just had this innate sense of, I should be creating this. I should be pulling in this information, this energy, these people, going to these places, and not necessarily knowing the outcome because we're not trying to control the outcome. Instead, we're surrendering to the flow of the universe, and the universe continually gifts to us. It gives us new opportunities. It gives us new emotions, new ways of thinking. And so I'd really like to ask you today, where you are trying to control things, and where are you in allowance of the surrender? Because those two have a totally different energy to them. There's almost this sense of peace when we learn to surrender. And for those of you who are out there who are these wonderful spiritual warriors, physical warriors, and you think surrender means that you failed or that you're that you're not giving it your best, or, I want you to really kind of put it under the microscope of what it means to surrender to the universe versus what it means to give up. Because giving up is not the same as surrendering. I think that let's just look at the words and get the sense of the energy. To give up means, you don't care anymore. I think that's the difference. To surrender doesn't mean that your passion or your love or your zest for whatever it is has been completely diminished. It just means that you're in allowance of receiving assistance. And that's the manner that I'm talking about today. It's not giving up on your dreams, it's surrendering to your dreams, right? Let's put it into that perspective of, if you give up on something, it means you're abandoning it, right? You're just going to walk away. You're not interested in picking it up again. You're not interested in seeing the energy flow or the creation of it. But sometimes when we surrender to our dreams, when we surrender to our ideas, it's allowing the consciousness of those ideas to grow into something greater, right? It's allowing you to set your ego aside and allowing the energies of the universe to gift to you all of those opportunities. For the people who are willing to co-create with you, it allows them to step into their potentials and present opportunities that could create greater. So, perhaps a good way of looking at this is, let me give an example. So the example would be is if you're asking to create a business. Okay, so let's put it that way. If you're asking to create a business and you are so structured on the control of it and structured on the idea, and that is the only way it could possibly ever be, and that's the only way that it's going to happen or come to fruition or to grow, then you're automatically setting it up for failure, because you're automatically putting it into a box of limitation. So when we surrender to the possibilities of the business growth and people coming in who can contribute to the growth, whether it's employees, whether it's just, someone with monetary means or ideas and brainstorming and creativity, it can actually create greater for the business, because businesses are consciousness in the idea form. They're conscious entities. If you think of, you're probably like, what do you mean by entities? Well, if we think about entities as businesses being entities, corporations are entities, LLCs, sole proprietors, those are entities. They're just a consciousness, a form, an extension of you operating as a business. That's why they call them businesses and companies. If you actually look up the definition of, what it means to incorporate or corporations, it has to do with the entity body of the company. Granted, it's mostly paperwork, but there's energy behind that, right? So when we get into the flow of the creation, because I don't really think that when entrepreneurs and people get into operating from a business standpoint, right, when they are creating a business, at least for myself, and let me just do that. I will speak for myself. When I go into creating my businesses, it was the idea of, I wanted it to be greater than me. I wanted it to grow. I wanted the opportunities to be available and to present themselves. And I personally asked the universe to contribute to me on a very moment to moment basis, on a daily basis. I asked for greater in the future. I asked to be able to leave behind a legacy, a thing that helps to create better for the community, better for everyone's bodies, the individuals. And I don't want to leave myself out of that creation. So I ask for it to create greater for me on a personal level, right? So when we look at businesses, we could also put that into the aspect of of relationships. Where can you surrender to the flow of relationships? This is a really great talking point that I have here. It's the idea of, where do you self-sabotage relationships because you have to control the outcome, or you have to control how someone looks, or how someone speaks, or how someone acts, or how much of that are you controlling? We look at this, if you want to look at an individual in a relationship aspect, you're not asking to marry a robot. You don't want to program it. And unfortunately, society has kind of indoctrinated the idea of, certain people have to look a certain way, they have to act a certain way, they have to chew their food a certain way, or else they just don't meet the requirements. And what I'm saying is that what's right for you, and you all come into this aspect with soul contracts and things like that. But I'm asking you to think on the consciousness of surrendering to the energy of the people, the places, and the things and the experiences that the universe is putting into your life to create greater for you. Surrendering does not mean that you don't get to choose, that you don't get to interact with the consciousness of your choices. It's just meaning to allow yourself the capacity to breathe, to relax, and allow yourself to get into the flow of life. Some people are so driven that they don't have a good work-life balance, right? That they think that in order for me to be successful, I have to totally ditch everything else in life in order to focus and hone in on this one thing. And while that may bring them a lot of financial success, or growth up the corporate ladder or whatever, it may damage the flow of family life, right? So they're not allowing themselves to surrender to the balance that the universe is capable of giving them. So there's so many different ways to spin this topic. And at the same time, I think honestly what it comes down to is, how much ease do you want in your life? And are you willing to accept and be an allowance of the support of others? Are you allowing yourself to receive from the universe? And where can you surrender and be in the flow of that and receive greater? Or are you wanting to control everything? And ultimately, we have to ask the question, how's that been working out for you? I think that for those of you who have been following me on this podcast, I love to ask questions, because I think it pushes beyond the limitation of that box of just having one answer, and that's the answer that's supposed to fit all things in our life. I think when we ask the questions and we surrender to not knowing everything, when we surrender to not always having the answers and being open to the universe gifting us things, that it can ultimately create so much peace, so much less stress, so much more opportunity, so much more money, actually, for our lives. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we're really seeking? We're seeking the energy of being at peace with ourselves, being at peace in our soul, surrounding ourselves with those who are offering us opportunities to be better and greater in life, and to also offer the opportunities for ourselves to step up as leaders in this community and leaders in this world, and allowing ourselves to surrender to our talents. How many of us have been hiding our talents from the world because it didn't fit someone's box, because we allowed ourselves to be controlled by others. We are allowed our voices to be controlled by others. So when we look at the energy of what we truly are, authenticity, the authenticity of our soul, no matter how that is presented to this universe, right? It's being authentic that allows us the capacity to surrender to the greatness that we be. It allows us to move beyond the control, beyond the havoc. It allows us to embrace love. It allows us to embrace ourselves. It allows us to embrace others. And you can start seeing a greater perspective, a much grander perspective of your life. So, this was a little bit of a shorter podcast, but I hope that brought the message home to you, that sometimes we have to surrender and allow the universe to gift to us for us to truly step into who we are. And I'm going to end this here, and I really hope that you have an amazing week. May you find all of the blessings that are available to you. May you recognize and acknowledge the greatness and the power that you truly be as the individual. And when you come together with others who contribute to your life and to your causes and to your business and to your relationships and to your overall joy and peace, may you acknowledge them and surrender to receiving them. May your heart energies just be magnified this week. And may you step into the ultimate realm of possibilities that are available for your personal development and growth. So until next time, I'm sending you all so much love.